I was afraid to embrace that, or the fear of being judged for having a feminine side and being vulnerable.
It's not the end of the world if you have to go back to level 1 and rebuild. And I think it's just having the confidence in yourself. You're like,
Have you boys seen them smelling salts?
Yeah, I've done it.
Oh, is it?
When you sniff it, it's literally like someone jabbing you in the fucking face.
Would you do it?
you have to...
It went like, hey. Are you still doing therapy though?
Yeah, oh yeah.
You're still doing it?
Yeah.
How often?
Probably whenever I feel like there's something on my mind to discuss, or when I feel like it's a good time for me to get things off my shoulders or off my chest. So I'd say every 5-6 weeks. The longest I'd gone was like 7 or 8. And, you know, I'd kind of just been putting it off, and there wasn't really a right time to fully sit down and you know, kind of go through and unpack a lot of stuff. That was on my mind. But, you know, doing it regularly all the time, I didn't really feel like I was getting a lot out of this. And that's kind of how sometimes therapy works. It's like you'll work really closely with a therapist, and then eventually after time, you know, when you start to just kind of understand yourself a bit more, that you kind of just end up like coming together, going away for a bit, and those sessions are really nice now, because not only do we catch up, it's like I can unpack loads of stuff that's happened over the course of a few months or over a month or whatever, and you know, I really understand. We have a really great catch up. We got, you know, it's a lovely relationship. I know we both share the same therapist, which is quite funny.
I was about to ask if you're still with the same guy.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you know, we've built that really lovely relationship now, and I think at the beginning it is a little bit like speed dating, and you got to find the right one. And I was very lucky that I felt like I found the right person straight away, and because I saw a lot of myself within Ian. It was a man who I really resonated with, and it felt like everything he was, or everything like he was projecting out, was someone that felt like was me, but also someone I really wanted to be and want to be. Was a guy who, you know, was he kind of came across quite feminine in a way, and just was very, you know, well spoken, just really nice, just really gentle energy. And I was like, oh fuck, you know, it just felt like something that I was very kind of closed off to be. And the more I understood myself, or he allowed me to go through that, was like the relationship. But it's funny with therapists, like, because sometimes when people haven't been listened to for years, and then some people can fall in love with their therapists.
Is it?
Yeah, people do, yeah.
I guess it's like a personal trainer relationship as well.
Yeah. So...
Did you have a previous therapist before you met Ian?
No, it was my first one. Yeah, I could just clicked instantly as well.
It was you, Charlie Stumpy, and then
James Costigan.
James Costigan, he was then my therapist.
Yeah, I spoke with James Yates a couple days ago, and it's like, Ian was probably thinking, what the fuck is wrong with that gym? Every person from that gym comes back to Ian and is like, fucking hell, man.
No, he's got some good clients out of it.
Carlson Gracie clapping, so emotional. You could go to Martin and just be like, they have some kind of deal.
Yeah. What's wrong with it? Like, tell us a bit more.
I've got a question for you though. On what you mentioned, you said you saw that he had a bit of a feminine side to him, and that was something that you struggled to project or portray before. Why do you think that was the case? And do you think you're at that place now where you're comfortable to show that feminine side?
Yeah, definitely, because what that was it was being vulnerable as a young guy, and that was something where I was very confused and very conflicted in embracing that. And I thought always being vulnerable was a weakness. And I grew up, you know, it was always, when I was in a household, was Charlie always has his heart on his sleeve, or he's very emotional as a boy. And I was always trying to shun that to the side, and maybe overcompensating as I was a teenager and growing up in my young 20s, where I was afraid to embrace that, or the fear of being judged for having a feminine side and being vulnerable. And when I saw a guy who came across in that way, it was like, that feels like it's okay to be that way. So, and it is okay to be vulnerable. It is okay as a young man to embrace side of you that wants to be held. Like we're all, we're all just children at the end of the day anyway. And I think, it's important for young guys to understand that it's okay to have that side and be open about it. And for a long time, I felt like it wasn't. And that's what really drew me in at the beginning, yeah.
Sorry to cut you off there. We did this podcast with Christian and we were kind of talking about the same kind of thing. And he was sort of saying having vulnerability as a man, being able to like have openness and be able to share with others. And I suppose like the correlation with all of this is like, as we were saying, doing jiu-jitsu, having the opportunity to speak to other men and just being able to be more vulnerable with other guys is also really important. I think it's interesting that in terms of therapists, you went for a male, you've went for a male, and I don't know, I've always gone with a male therapist as well. I think it's just really, I think there's always been that.
Joe as well.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you say that because originally I wanted to go for a female therapist.
Is it?
Yeah, definitely. When I was looking, because I was like, oh, this seems much more easier, and and so when I first had that interview with Ian at the beginning, I was kind of in the mind where I was just like, I'll do this, but I probably won't go for it.
Really?
Yeah, because I didn't. And when John gave me his details to contact, I was just like, oh, he was very recommended, but I was like, I feel more comfortable speaking to a female, and we just super hit it off, and it was like 3 weeks into our sessions where he asked me that really difficult but very simple question, and that was, who are you? And we spent a good, I think, 4 or 5 sessions trying to figure what that was. And really powerful, because everything that I was saying at the beginning was like, oh, who are you? Was my job or what I'd done, what I was doing, what I wanted to do. It was nothing about Charlie. So that was very eye-opening. And
what was your conclusion?
Well, I mean, it was just like we broke down a list of my good traits and bad traits and all the rest of it. I'm sure he's probably gone through the same with you.
Yeah.
And
not a shit though, by the way, but I really enjoyed that.
We were just
Was that
script? Tick, tick. Off you go.
Off you go.
And it was just unpacking a lot of shit. And what was really lovely is that the end of that was like, hey guys, thank you so much for making it this far into the podcast. If you have any feedback, then please let us know, as we always want to make this podcast better. So hearing from you is always a pleasure. Please subscribe to all of our platforms, get involved at Triangle Theory. If you've got any comments or if you want to share any topics that you think that me and Conrad would like to talk about, then please get involved. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much. I am Charlie with all my unique, glorious and human traits, because we're not perfect. We don't have to be, and that's okay. But we can, try to be the best version of ourselves. But there wasn't any added pressure to that. And what I liked it is that when I got it written out on a piece of paper, I stuck it on my wall. And every 6 months or so, I would add bits or take bits off and change it. And what was really nice about having it in my room is that, anyone who knew me or would ever go into my room would only be people that would be close to me, but they could see it visually. And it was almost like I wasn't afraid
showing it
to show people who I am.
Yeah.
And I could look at that whenever I felt down or was struggling, and I could read that and be like, hey, look, I'm having a tough whole week, but I'm working on that. And that's really powerful. And
yeah. How comes you tried to go for female therapists as well?
I think for me, I've always been a mummy's boy, and I've always found it easiest to talk to. I mean, she's always been the person I've gone to, and she's a therapist herself. So for me, I always thought women might be able to give you a different perspective and reflection point compared to men. And I think a lot of the time, 95% of my friends are men. So I can go to you guys and speak to you guys about stuff, and you're going to give me a perspective as friends. You don't have that knowledge as a therapist would have. So for me, that's what I thought. And I only saw my therapist for, I think, 3-4 sessions. And in the end, I could just tell I didn't blend with him too well. And then I went traveling. And I think for me, that traveling stint for 2 months was therapy for me. And I came back such a better person than I was before I left.
Did you go traveling on your own?
Yeah.
I think going traveling on your own is just the best.
Sorry, I was going to say, could you share like those experiences of when you went away traveling and what that meant to you in terms of like, you know, building on your character?
Yeah, so I think you mentioned it to Conrad because he fed it back to me in a positive light, and Martin said the same. But just before I went traveling, so I went end of February, I was in a period probably been the lowest period of my life, and I felt very lost. So going away traveling felt for me, it wasn't an escape, but I wanted to, as cliche as it sounds, do a lot of soul searching. And I truly believe that the only way he can really soul search is by, similar to therapy, being asked critical questions or asking yourself critical questions. And I remember going away and feeling like it was like an arc where I was trying to really, I wanted to try hard things and just challenge myself mentally. And I think it kind of came full circle for me probably about a week and a half before I left traveling. And I'll never forget it. I was on these islands in Panama called the San Blas Islands. And I was doing a 2-night stayover trip, but everyone else on my trip only did 1 night. So they left at like 2:00 in the afternoon. And I was there from about 4:00 in the most picturesque, majestic view, where I was at the end of this pier and there was just 2 Panamanian guys just drinking beers at the end. And we only started talking about football. They're like, hey, you like football? And I was like, yeah, Manchester United. And they start all these jokes and everything. But I was just there and I just had a piece of pen and paper, just started writing down a load of things. And that was it. And like, it clicked for me. And I was like, yeah, this is what, this whole trip, this is what I wanted to achieve. And it felt like I just let go of a lot of things.
That's lovely, man. That's beautiful.
Yeah. It felt, I remember in that period, I just felt really emotional. I just thought, this is good. This is, the only way out is through.
Interesting. What did you write on the paper, if you don't mind me asking?
I can't even remember. I genuinely can't remember. I think I just started scribbling down. I remember, this is just after I came back, but this was linked to it. I was in a coffee shop, and this was, I think I've got it dated as the 26th of June this year. And I said, I want to look back at this in a year's time and see how well I can answer these questions, and ask myself 10 questions. And I don't remember them specifically, and I kind of thought, I'm going to throw it to the side and then look at it in a year's time to think, how well did I work towards those questions, and even things I wanted to achieve. So for instance, I said to myself, I want to spend at least, I think it was 6 months out of the UK by the time that comes round. And I guess that's in line with what I want to do, and just various things that I want to really, really work towards. So that was it really.
I think a lot of the time when you put yourself in a state of travel, because it was such a pivotal part of my like character. And
speaking to your mic, obviously.
Can you hear? Is it the beard? Maybe it's the beard.
Probably is the best.
Is that better? No.
Move the.
Towards me? Like that?
That's fine now.
Or shall I lift it up?
No, just keep it.
Just keep it down like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. Is everyone's mics close enough to the face? Just want to check that.
Your one, just bring it a bit closer.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's fine.
Cool.
Beautiful.
Yeah, like I think with traveling, it's always one of those, I think in terms of therapy and like answering the questions of like, who am I? What do I want to do? What do I want to achieve? I think when you put yourself in where you're sort of in another country, somewhere else that you don't know, you don't really have a plan, or there's not really this kind of like thought out process of you open yourself up to these experiences that have profound effects on you. And I think that that's the ones that you look back on and go, fuck, that actually changed so much of who I am and answered a question that I might have needed there and then. So yeah, it's like whenever I think about if ever I'm feeling lost, I kind of think back to those moments of, again, like when we went traveling when we were 18 and how much that changed our like life forever.
And I always look at that as such a pivotal point of the person that I am today, or even like whenever I've traveled or gone somewhere else. And like you're obviously off on another big trip. Like,
I think to me it shows somewhat some risk that you're willing to take.
Yeah.
And resilience, which is what you decide at the initial start before you go away. And because you're going into the unknown.
Yeah.
And with that is risk of putting yourself in a situation that could be dangerous. You're adhering to a different set of laws. You're more exposed. You're out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
So just that in itself, taking that initial decision, shows a lot in one person's character, hugely.
Yeah.
And whether you've done all the therapy in the world or not, you could still not leave home. But you know, there's different ways of doing it, and it is very therapeutic to go off and experience the world and offset some new challenges which you wouldn't get just in one place. And hearing your story in Panama, it's really beautiful to hear that you had a really lovely emotional moment with yourself that you probably wouldn't have got here, even if you had all the professional help possible.
I think
so there is risk in that.
Yeah, sorry for cutting you, but I think it's just an element of putting yourself in completely new environment, and that's where it clicks. So for me, moving from Lithuania to the UK, it was just new culture, new language, new people, new city. Like I just put myself in that situation, and then all these little other things just came up within me. That like I'm interested in self-development, and I'm interested in therapy, and I'm interested in podcasting and martial arts, where if I would have stayed in Lithuania, I would never have thought about even doing it. So
I remember we had a conversation because it was during somewhat between lockdown when we were sneakily going off and training jiu-jitsu at Dan's house. And I think we went to Sainsbury's because we were getting some food or whatever. And you were telling me about your experience of why you came over to the UK, and it was to do singing. And I was just really blown away by someone who's younger and, you know, was, very switched on, that you would take all that risk and all that, you know, it was just very bold, and I had a huge amount of respect to hear that and watch you to just see someone that I would, you know, to talk to someone who just did that. I was like, well, I could never do that. That felt terrifying to me.
Even moving to another country.
Moving to another country with a different language and just not knowing anyone, like...
Seems like a fucking mammoth task.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean...
He just didn't want to go to the war.
Literally, I was running away from it. I was straight out of military. I was like, fuck, I have to go somewhere else. No, like it wasn't... When I'm looking back... it might sound like it was a huge risk, but at the end of the day, like my sister was here, so it's not like I was going.
I guess not. Like, maybe.
Yeah, but
familiarity.
But yeah, it's still like looking back. I'm really really glad I moved to the UK because I found like very good friends, and I never have.
Sorry to cut you there. It's interesting. So I was actually talking to one of our staff members, who's this Indian guy that works for us. And he was saying that when he moved to the UK, like I was driving in the car with him from this event, and I was like, so like, how do you find the UK? And he was like, to be honest, I think it might have been a mistake. And I was like, how come you say that? Because he did this whole uni thing, and he was like, I don't know if it's where I want to be right now, and I think I would have rather have been in Dubai like my other friend. And I was like, well, regardless of where you've moved to, you'll always take an experience from that, and it will change you as a person fundamentally. You might not know it now, but you will always look back at this moment and go, moving to the UK or being somewhere has fundamentally changed my decision making, that might have led on to a whole other set of experiences you never knew were going to happen.
Yeah.
But I think, it's like, it's fucking unreal that, I mean, you've also lived in other countries as well. I think it takes this sense of like courage, resilience, boldness, like trusting in yourself. And I saw this thing, I think it was like an Instagram reel where someone was talking about it. They were saying that moving to another country, because you're in a set of environment that you're not used to, subconsciously you're sort of adapting to your environment from a survival point of view. And they say that because you're in that state of mind, that you sort of really understand more of who you are as a person, just on the basis that you're in somewhere that might be a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I mean, was it? Yeah.
I think, and I've got a question for you guys in a moment, but what I think is magical about traveling is you're not Charlie from Jiu-Jitsu or Rupert at DOSMAS. You are just Charlie.
Yeah.
Well, you could turn around
So
and be whoever you want to be, and you're being authentic. You're meeting people, and I think you realise, you meet someone, you're like, this guy's a prick. I don't want to see you again. That's it. Whereas at work or jiu-jitsu, you're forced to be put in to these positions where you still have to be amicable with people. But quite often with travelling, it's a case of, I don't like doing this, I'm going to do this. And you're purely yourself. And I think I was listening to someone the other day who's saying about going away, being in holiday mode, so to speak. And it's very different to living somewhere. And I believe that what's so great about travelling is you're in this state where quite often at home you're thinking of excuses not to do stuff, so you'll say no to stuff because you're busy or you're tired. Whereas even when you're traveling, you're just going out, if you meet someone, you're having a good day during the day, you probably just think, you know what, I'll meet up with these people for food and drinks in the evening. I think people are kind of rewired into this position where they're more in tune with saying yes and just throwing themselves out there. And that's why they come back with so many experiences in such a short, compact period of time. And it was a thing that I said to you that this guy said to me, I'll never forget it, really cool Dutch guy in Rio de Janeiro. I was there 8 years ago. We hiked up a mountain. He just turned to me and shook my hand and said, thank you. I was like, what are you thanking me for? He was just like, it was such a cool day. Just felt like we had each other's backs. And he said to me, he believes the experience that you can build with someone in a day traveling takes 6 months back home.
I couldn't agree more.
I couldn't agree more, yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Well said.
That's very true. Yeah, I really resonate with that.
It's funny because like even the traveling that we've done when we were 18, there's still people that I still keep in contact with, because you'll always look back at those memories and be like, fucking hell, yeah, do you remember that epic day, that epic time? There's something about this like kind of coming together it's like having an adventure, and those are the experiences that.
Well, some cultures, that breathe for it. Like when we went to India, like the hospitality I felt there would have felt like years you would have had to build up relationships here to have got, and you learn something about that.
I remember you told the story where that family invited you to their home.
Yeah,
Did you share that?
Of course, yeah. I mean, I was with Rup. We were together, and I went to the shop and went to go get some food or whatever. And a guy just pulled up on a bike and was just like, "Hey, how you doing?" And
what country is this in?
This is India. This was in Goa, and I was, just chatting to him, and it was a lovely conversation. And he was like, "Do you want to hop on the back and I'll show you this beach that I really like?" And I was just like, "Yeah, fuck it." Yeah. So we ended up going around, saw this lovely beach, and we were talking. And he was like, "I'd love you to come over for dinner." And I was like, "Yeah, sure. I'll get my brother and we'll come meet you for dinner. It'd be lovely." And,
so while you were on the bike, you were just by yourself?
I was just by myself.
Okay.
Yeah. And and he kind of dropped me back, and he was like, "Cool, I'll see you back here at 7:30 or whatever." And I came and told you, and I was like, "We're gonna go to this guy's house for dinner," and I think you were quite like, "What?" It was a bit weird.
Yeah.
Organs on the menu.
Yeah. And I was like,
that's how we get my.
we were just like, well, we may as well go for it. Why not? Like,
Right.
what's the worst that can happen? And anyway, we ended up going there, and there was like 15 people.
Wow.
There.
That
Family, friends,
Kids.
Wow.
kids, and they were just all just staring at myself.
Yeah, so they like sat us down
Mm.
and they gave us just bottles of water. And because no one spoke English, we were kind of all just sat there being like, yeah, water. This is like what you communicate, but you're not really communicating.
And the guy who had me on the back of his bike,
He's quite a young guy.
And I was like, "Oh, I can't remember his name, unfortunately," but he was in the kitchen, and he was just rolling chapati dough like on the floor,
Mm-hmm.
and he was like, "Dinner will be ready soon," and I was like, "Okay, great." Thank
They
you
had
so
this.
much.
What I remember is they pulled this tile in their kitchen across, and there was this like furnace bowl, and they were cooking the chapatis on the side of it. So I was like, "Fuck, this smells amazing!" Like,
Yeah,
the curry
smell was
smelled amazing. And there was like quite a large living room, and we all sat in the living room on the floor, and they put all the curries and stuff in the middle, and like there wasn't enough food for 15 people. And they served me and Charlie like the biggest portion I've ever seen.
Oh my
First, they watched us eat it, and then the guy said in English, he was like, "Can we eat now?" And I was like, "Yeah, obviously you guys can eat now. Like, why are you not eating with us?" And they kept trying to put more food on our plate, and I was like, "Stop!" And they were asking like in broken English, they were kind of saying like, "Where are you from? What's it? Why are you in India? Like, are you enjoying it?" Just trying to understand about like our perspective of life. And then we went for a couple of beers with that guy and his friends.
Yeah, it was really nice. I'd never.
How shocked were they when they saw you twins?
Well, we used to
my
have
God,
people come up, like when we were in India, people would come up to us and be like, "Can we take pictures with you?" Like all the time. So we were having selfies, people taking pictures of us, because I think a lot of it's like they do it to show to like friends of theirs that they're friends with like white guys or whatever. It's quite funny. But yeah, because we were twins, we were getting stopped all the time.
Yeah, I
It was
mean,
nuts.
again, it was 11 years ago now. Whether it's still very, they say I've not been back since. So, but it was just an experience that I'll always remember, because it was, a sense of hospitality and looking after your guests that was just taken on to a new level. And there are cultures like that all around the world, like even in like Middle Eastern, even Afghanistan or Iraq, like their hospitality there is completely at a new level.
It's
insane.
Sorry for going here. I had a similar experience where when I went to Lithuania with my girlfriend, we were driving past Latvia, and as we were driving past, like on this little bench, there was loads of I think it was just some berries for sale. So we stopped because we wanted to buy some, and we were waiting, but because no one came really to sell that. So thought we're just gonna pick it up and just leave a $5. But then this man came up and he's like, "Oh, like where you from?" and all of that. And I was like, "I'm Lithuanian and she's Iraqi." And he's like, "Oh, Iraqi, I've never seen Iraqi before." I was like, one second. We went back home, picked up his phone, and was like, "Can I take a picture of you?" And he just started taking pictures, like gave us berries. And then apparently I found out that he was working during Soviet Union. He was working in the city that I was from. So he's like, "Oh, no, I know your city." Like it was just such a wholesome moment. And he's like, gave us the berries. We gave him the money, but we just took some pictures. He got my WhatsApp, but he didn't send the pictures for, unfortunately. But it was really, really wholesome.
So you got to start an OnlyFans for her now.
That's it. Yeah. Couple OnlyFans. So.
No, it's amazing. Like, I think those experiences resonate because it makes me feel I should be, or I would like to be, a bit more open-armed towards, people.
Yeah.
And I think everyone could be, we can all still be more kind to others, and to give people things, even if you don't have anything, or even if you don't have much to give, to still be giving. And if you can go to those countries, those third world areas of the world, which is predominantly most of the world, and they can still give away what little they have, I think it goes to show that in our modern world, that is something I feel we could do more of.
Are you guys familiar with Dr. Gato Mate?
Yeah. I am. Yeah.
I don't know.
Did you listen to the podcast?
Yes, I did, yeah. It was the one about trauma with
Theo Von, yeah. I'll send you guys the podcast.
Yeah, send it.
One of the best podcasts I've ever listened to.
Nice.
But he's a physician, and I believe he was in World War II. So I think he's Bulgarian or Hungarian. Hungarian, I think.
Yeah, I don't know which country, but yeah.
To the point. He was given up for adoption at 1, and he was on this podcast and he was talking, and he was talking about he's been to so many places throughout the world, and kind of what you were saying. But the point that he was making was,
I have seen this.
It's magical.
Yeah.
And so he talks about people's top 5 regrets
Yeah,
before they die,
Yeah.
and what they are. And I think I was listening to it, and I think what they were encompassing was saying that there's cultures out there that believe in we should give with no expectation of receiving, and giving is the gift. And I think a lot of the time, and I think one of the most beautiful things you can do with your friends is to cook for them. Have them around your house, just sit down and relax, and just throw your phone to the side with no time limit. There's no filter of, oh, I need to do this, or this is what I need to do. And I think that's what's so powerful about, I mean, my family's from Tunisia, and a lot of the time they just, similar to what you're saying about being in India, you just sit on the floor, they're playing music off whatever beat they can find, and it just feels wholesome. And when you look back at it, you remember it. But I think a lot of the time, Western society, and a lot of the developing countries now.
Hey guys, your feedback is very important. And no, this is not an advertisement. Actually, what I'm asking from you is to leave a comment below what you liked, and most importantly, what you disliked about this episode, because we can improve on the next episodes and we can make a better content for you to listen. Give us also a topics you'd like to us talking about, and we can prepare, do your research and talk about it on the next episodes. Thank you.
With the use of smartphones, like I go back to Tunisia last time, and all the kids are just on their phones, and you just think they're playing Candy Crush or they're on TikTok, and you're like, come on guys. I think we're losing so much culture in Western society, whereby you just turn around, and again, kind of pivoting back to traveling, I think when you're traveling, quite often you don't have great connectivity, SIMs, you're by yourself. So if you don't push yourself out there, you don't want to be that one person in a group who's on their phone, or everyone's out there socializing.
Do you guys remember if you were a kid, when we were kids, if we ever went to a restaurant with our parents, that we'd have to engage in conversation? If anyone was on a phone, that would be like game over.
Yeah.
So like when we were growing up, it was really important where if it came to dinner time, that there was no entertainment. We weren't even allowed colouring books. You'd have to sit there and like engage. And obviously back then, like smartphones weren't a thing, but it was the importance of when you're in company, you're present. And I love how you touched on that, Joe, as like breaking bread or sitting for a meal is the most present thing I think we have in a daily life.
Also giving a meal, like there was this one time where we were in Morocco and we broke fast with this whole hostel, and that was like such an incredible moment, because you're sitting with people that you hadn't met before and talking to them, and it was sort of over this table of incredible food, having not eaten for the whole day. And there was this sort of like this, I don't know, quite like instinctual moment where it was just really natural and sort of going back to it. But then also a lot of the ways that I show love to the people I care about is also cooking for them. That's such a big thing for me. It's like, come around and I'll cook you a meal. So one way I show like love to my partner as well is putting all that effort into like a meal that she can have, or even for you, for example.
It's an expression.
Yeah, it's like it's from the heart, and like it's like I fucking made this for you.
So you better eat it.
Yeah, well, that's not what I got this morning. I made Lily breakfast in bed, and she turned around and gave it back, and she was like, "I don't like it."
What was it?
Really?
Really? Did she actually? What?
That's rude, man.
No, I was like, "You fucking bitch." So I remade it because she didn't like. I put like a certain spread of something, and she was just like. So it's, I don't know, it's just quite funny because that's like
what was it? I'm curious.
I just did eggs on a bagel, and like
damn, bro.
I had some like some red currant jelly, and I was just like, I spread that on there because it was like I quite like a little bit of sweetness with my eggs, I suppose.
Right.
I made her a tea, and I was just like, I made you better than this. It's really nice, and it's just
still.
And she was like, no, and I was just like, all right.
Do you cook for Rafal as well?
Yeah, time. No, I do. Oh, sorry. I do. But
does it come from the
it's my love language, yeah.
My go-to meal is just eggs on toast and avocado. But I'm actually thinking of cooking like something Thai now. I was looking into some stuff to cook for, and just in general, I want to learn how to cook some meals. So
food is amazing, and being a chef, having always loved food, and it's been my career. I've cooked, and I think it's such a wonderful way of looking at the world through a foodie eyes, because it's one way, going to different cultures, and you can't hide behind food. You go to a country, what they have on offer generally gives you a really good insight on how they're doing economically, or what they have as, great insight to their heritage of cultures and why they eat the things they eat. And the history of food is fascinating. The maritime industry back in the 1700s just ruled a huge amount of, different foods around the world, because there was all this exporting and importing, and, the amount of, different foods, other cultures, then, just all came. It's amazing to read about. And being a chef and being in the culinary world has been amazing. And, it's been great to understand like what's good for your body and what isn't, what's changing, what shouldn't change. Agriculture and farming and where you get your produce is important. And then communicating through food, like Rupert said, like I communicate through food. Like I might not be able to say a couple of things, but if I cook you a meal, you generally know you'll be on my good terms. And doing it as a job, as a business, it's like feeding the public every day is challenging, and it gives you a really good understanding of people, and just reading people on a daily basis and what they want. It's great. I mean, yeah.
So I actually was going to ask, what's like a staple dish that you would have that's Lithuanian and also Tunisian? Did you have what was like a traditional dish that you guys would both have?
Like daily.
Daily, or just something that's like, damn, that's like Lithuanian food?
Oh, like,
or Tunisian food?
Like Lithuanian is just, you definitely don't have it daily, but it's like once every month or so. Like you have like, it's called tepelini.
Okay.
So it's like meat inside potato, like boiled potato.
Well,
so
like ham inside a boiled potato.
What's that?
Is it like ham, like cooked meat, or?
Not ham, but like pork.
Okay.
Just pork. But you definitely can't have it like every day because
No.
be
And Tunisian food?
Couscous.
Couscous,
That'd be the staple.
Yeah.
I remember I made you couscous once.
When?
You came over once and I made you couscous.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And he said it's good, but it's not as good as my dad's.
It's so,
Probably true, yeah.
but it's
Probably
so
was.
different to because I remember I'd be in primary school and they were serving you couscous and it's white.
That's not
Just bland
couscous, bro.
couscous,
It's
yeah.
supposed to be red. It's like tomato based.
Do you have like
really? Because I put like raisins and
No,
like
they
turmeric and all
wouldn't do
sorts of stuff. They wouldn't do that Tunisian.
No.
just like as a Christmas theme, do you guys have traditional food that you'd have at Christmas?
Like during
Christmas Day or something like that?
So we celebrate in Lithuania. We celebrate Christmas Eve more than Christmas. Like
Yeah.
is more of a big deal because, it was like a Christmas episode. We haven't talked about Christmas yet.
We're just wearing Christmas shit. No one is spoken about
So
this.
we,
the
we
first
don't
Christmas
eat.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's make a sound
yeah, it does.
like a kid.
We don't do meat. We don't eat meat on that Christmas Eve. Just like fish and vegetables, and we don't drink alcohol except wine. So we do that.
Wow.
And we have to have like 12 dishes because it's like 12
Disciples.
yeah.
Is Lithuania quite a Christian?
Yeah,
It
it
is,
is.
is it? Okay.
Well, my family is not Christian at all, but we still like have this.
There's churches mostly.
yeah.
Is there any Muslim culture in? Mostly Christian.
Mostly Christian.
Oh, okay.
I don't know any Muslims, though, to be honest.
Do you have-
Muslims?
Do you have traditional Tunisian food at Christmas? Is that even celebrated?
No. So my dad's Muslim.
Okay.
And the rest of my family, we've all been raised Catholic.
Yeah.
I mean, my dad, he'd hate me for saying this, but he ate pork up until about 10, 12 years ago.
Really?
So he loved the bacon salmon.
Damn.
And he just stopped one day.
Sucker for a bacon butty.
That was it. And he was like, "What, you're not eating pork anymore?" I was like, "No, don't eat it. Pork's dirty." Mom.
So is he fully converted Muslim now?
No. So
What was that like, growing up with like a Muslim dad in a Catholic household?
I mean, he's the most. liberal guy. He just doesn't care. Doesn't care. I used to ask him, what football team do you support? And he's like, I support my wallet. He's like, I don't give a shit about football. He's like, as long as I'm supporting money, that's it, the Queen.
Because your dad was like he's a business guy, right? He's
He's a builder, just always operated in the southwest London area.
Yeah.
Just came over from Tunisia. He literally came over with nothing. So
Wow.
He's really built a lot for himself, and I think he should be proud. At times he's quite critical on, I want more money, or should be doing this. But I mean, when I look at it, he came from a working class family in Tunisia, which by British terms would be like levels below. So I think he's done really well.
Yeah, that's amazing. So did the Catholic side come from your mum, or was... Yeah,
so my mum, my grandparents, they immigrated from Ireland in, I think, the 60s.
Okay.
And they came to London, Catholic, and that was it. She's just, me, my brother, sister, and I, we've all been raised Catholic. He was religious.
No. We came from a Christian, I suppose...
My mum pretended we were Christian to get into a good Christian school.
Classic.
When we were young. So she made us go to church for a bit.
Yeah, I'd go to church for like 3 months. I hate this. It's like, no, I need to get you into this.
So she hustled away a little bit. But I never resonated with Christianity. I like going into old churches. It's really like beautiful buildings.
Calming.
And I think faith is a really wonderful, the idea of faith, and I think following a code of being good to your neighbor and following those steps are great for people.
One of those steps, like you mentioned, that just give before you receive. So that's one of the things I wanted to mention when you were talking about, which is
Did you know Christmas wasn't always celebrated on the 25th of December?
Oh.
Apparently, in the Bible, it doesn't actually specify a date for Jesus' birth, and some historians believe that it actually could have been in spring. December 25th was chosen by early Christians to coincide with the pagan winter festivals. Supposedly.
I also heard that Christmas was positioned for the end of the year in the middle of winter to give people a morale boost.
Do you know what? That makes so much more sense.
You don't need it in spring. You're like,
yeah, mate. To be fair, having it in winter is it's one thing to fucking look forward to. If we didn't have Christmas in December.
They say, because I saw this crazy thing where it coincides with the fucking sun. So, because during the Christmas time was when Jesus was born. And then it's all to do with the sun cycles, and then to do with his deaths, like in Easter and stuff. And because obviously during December time was the time of like no crops and stuff like that. So I think it was some
makes
kind
more
of
sense. It's a morale boost.
Yeah, I think it was something like that. I can't remember the exact documentary, but it was supposedly like kind of links to that, as well as like coinciding with the sun. Like it wasn't actually because Jesus was born on that day in Bethlehem.
How old is Christmas as a tradition?
Let's
have a look.
400.
Jamie, pull that shit out.
And also, how long do you think we'll continue celebrating Christmas for in our civilization?
That's actually a good question.
Because
do you think it would just fade?
I think as
more and more people won't.
But the thing is, like,
it's been taking place for over 4,000 years. Many traditions date back to centuries. Obviously, the birth of Christ. The word Christmas comes from the Middle English phrase Christian Mass, and the Old English phrase Christ's Masse, which was first recorded in 1038. So it's like 4th century. But then, like, when did Santa and presents come along? Like,
well, that was I believe that was just advertising, surely.
Well, apparently Santa was invented by Coca-Cola.
Is it?
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Really?
Yeah. Because
wait, before that,
it used to be blue.
It used to be green.
Yeah.
So who invented Santa?
I think before Santa was the thing you call, I don't know what do you call him, but they have the guy in Germany,
Papa Noel,
Saint Nicholas.
Yeah, the legend of Santa Claus, many origins, inclling the story of Saint Nicholas,
Saint Nicholas,
a monk who lived in the 3rd century, and the work of a cartoonist, Thomas Nat Harper. So it's based on images drawn by a cartoonist, Thomas Nast, for the Harper's Weekly, beginning in 1863. So yeah, and he used to be wearing green, but then Coca-Cola changed him to red.
Yeah,
was the thing that I saw.
And what country does Santa originate from?
Antarctica.
The North Pole.
Where is Santa from?
Bro's really from Ghana.
He's Muslim.
Combination.
Greek bishop from Myra, and is now located in Turkey.
Okay.
Well, it
fair.
doesn't make any. So yeah, Myra is modern day Turkey. Saint Nicholas was created with a wide variety of miracles, according to one story. He resurrected 3 youths after they'd been murdered and pickled in a barrel by an innkeeper. What the fuck?
Okay.
To your
Something,
question, when you said how long is Christmas going to be celebrated?
Well, yeah, I mean,
I feel like it's just going to be for thousands of years, because now it's not about the religion itself, it's more about the money now, like
the
buying
presents
gifts,
and the gifts.
presents. So it's not only, it's like it's been advertised as well, so like you have to kind of buy Christmas presents and like get all these
Yeah.
deals, so you have like a movement now almost to
Agree. I mean, there's
Yeah.
a pressure built up now.
yeah
Where it's
yeah.
like, oh, if you don't provide for Christmas, then you're not seen as someone who, you know, is doing well. I mean, I find it a fun question to ask because it's kind of makes you think, like, you know, in civilization, do we just go through fads? Because there's so many things that we would have used to have celebrated back in the past that we don't anymore now. And even just saying, let's just say how it is in the UK, like 50 years ago, we had so many more royalists, and now, like, there's not a lot of
There's
them.
this cool phenomenon on if something will last the test of time.
Yeah.
Only learned about this the other day. And I don't know the exact name for it, but if something lasts, so it's not people, obviously, because we die, but if a tradition or a hobby or something lasts for over 1,000 years, it is likely, as in like extremely likely, that it's just going to continue to live for the rest of time.
I wonder if that's same for like religions too. Like
It has
if like
to, yeah.
Scientology
Well, like
kept
eating
going
meat,
on for as
for
long as it did.
instance, that's lasted for over 1,000 years. So
What was that? Eating?
eating meat is an
Yeah,
example.
yeah.
Interesting.
Maybe if veganism lasts for as long as it does, it would just be like one of those things that just becomes like a thing that everyone does.
Doubt it.
I mean, even if you think about the Olympics, like,
Oh yeah,
you
interesting.
know,
yeah,
Greek
yeah.
culture, that was thousands of years ago, and we still celebrate it now, like the Olympic Games and all the rest of it. I think it's, yeah, I can understand your point. I think that makes
Olympic Games, Christmas.
Total
What else
sense.
has stood the test of time of 1,000 years?
well, you
old?
got Easter, like there's even
Yeah, but those are
The
more
older
like
religious celebrations, you know.
like because in India they celebrate fucking everything. Like they like throw like color at each other and stuff. That's like thousands.
running with the bulls in Spain.
running with the
Have-
bulls in
my-
Spain.
I
Have you
think-
seen that? I'm not sure if that's for 1,000 years, but I've seen the tradition where they swing the swords on their backs and they cut their backs open.
Oh my god! What?
That's mad.
is that?
I think it's in India as well, right?
I'm not too sure.
Well, there's a Day of the Dead festival in Mexico where they
Celebrate, yeah.
celebrate De la Muerte, which is
Can you Google that?
What, the sword thing?
The sword thing.
So what is it?
Because like people apparently goes in the streets and they swing their swords. They recently did that in Indonesia. So they swing swords back on their backs and they just cut themselves open. And I've seen they did it even in Thailand. The guy that I trained in a gym, he's living in Thailand now with a Thai wife. And he was filming where the guy just walks and just cuts himself with a sword, like his mouth wide open.
oh my god!
It was just like bleeding all over, like fucking.
Sounds like a belt grading at Carson Gracie.
That's
The
extreme.
practice of tap beer includes striking oneself with a talwar or a type of sword on the head, causing blood to flow in remembrance of the pain felt by Hussein Ibn Ali. Sorry if I've messed that up. Some also hit their back or chest with blades attached to chains.
Yeah,
But why do they do
it looks mad.
It's very masochistic.
Yeah, that's
It is,
barbaric.
it is.
Well, and they do that because it's the
I'm not sure the reason behind it, but I've just seen the videos, like, and I know that is a tradition for like, God knows how many years.
I'm trying to see what it is, why it performed. So what it symbolizes, a way to remember. Yeah. So and the Battle of Kabbalah, it is also seen as a cultural to get covered in blood and get on white or black clothes. That consider it because they see it as, I don't know. Some people see it as haram, so like not good to do.
Yeah. Haram, you said.
Yeah, so they say the majority of scholars also consider tap beer to be haram. Other traditions during this time include storytelling, weeping, chest beating, wearing black, partial fasting. How did you hear about that?
I just saw a video.
That's mad.
Just read about it.
Can you look into how long the Kiwi Haka has been?
Actually, that's such a good one.
Well, that's a tribalistic because that would have been
Maoris.
Is it from Maori?
They would have had different
Maori?
hackers
Maori.
for different tribes, and that's
So it began with the 1888-1889 New Zealand native football team.
No, but they used to do that before wars, no?
So the Haka. So
I'm pretty sure they used to
before going
performed by a group of
before going
vigorous
to battle.
movements
Yeah,
by
that's
stamping
where
their feet.
it originated from.
Sorry, Haka have been traditionally performed by both men and women for a variety of social functions within the Maori culture. They performed it as to welcome distinguished guests or acknowledge great achievements, occasions or funerals. The Kappa Haka groups of common in schools.
Auntie's coming.
if that was the case, like before going into battle and you saw a bunch of dudes doing that on the other side, you'd be like, fuck that.
Origins. Been going on for generations, uniformed as war dances. So basically going to that. The Haka dance about the celebration of life following the creation story to the sun god.
It's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
Well, when that similar to that,
They're
I'm not
proud
sure if
people.
that's similar to Haka, but
It's a war dance.
the
basically.
producer of 300 movie went on Joe Rogan podcast,
Oh yeah, I saw that. That was fucking awesome.
and and then he said that before the battle they used to fuck each other. So
Who the guys?
the guys, yeah,
Yeah, and
before the
Spartan-
battle, so they
Spartan warriors,
yeah.
yeah. They were
Spartans.
saying,
they all were gay.
well, I don't know. Well, the thing was, is like they were.
I ain't trying to be the bro.
They were all
It was
gay.
a great-
It wasn't a gay thing. I don't think it was. I think if you think about it, it's
They-
like they looking into that culture of a Spartan warrior. It was all they knew and understood was each other in
Well,
terms of like.
Sorry to interrupt. It was like I watched It was like a docu series on Netflix about the Hernandez case and about the boys, the Hernandez brothers who murdered their parents because they were getting really sexually abused by their dad and all the rest of it. And there was something in that series where he would say, "Oh, this is what Greeks used to do."
Sorry, you said Hernandez, was that?
Menendez. So it's like it was a case back in the 80s where
Okay.
two brothers that were in a really rich family. Their dad, he was like incredibly successful guy, came over to America and like built businesses and.
He was like basically sexually molesting his own children, and then they actually ended up killing their parents.
Yeah, allegedly they said like there was a huge scandal like whether he even did it or not, and everyone's got very conflicting views on it. But in the series, he says there's this one scene where he's like, "This is what Spartans used to do to each other." So it's almost like this kind of fucked up way of like brotherhood or showing affection of like toughening up and all the rest of it, and it's awful because it's like you're raping someone on the belief that it's supposed to make you tough. And listening to that podcast of him saying like those is what men used to do to say goodbye to each other or show like a certain love for each other on the battlefield.
Apparently it was because
it's
it'd be more
barbaric,
like
yeah.
Spartans would be more like getting amped up and trying to defend their brothers because they were also in love with their comrades. Like
mental.
Because that was their everything. It was like if your person that you're fighting with, working with, loving with, making love with, your friend, everything that's your life is fighting with you side by side, you're more like, it's more of a thing. That's kind of what you were saying, right? But I don't think that's an ancient tradition that's kept on for 1,000 years.
Hopefully not.
Wait till we finish.
What was the end outcome? Because I've seen the documentary, but I haven't looked.
Well, it was
Yeah,
quite
I
sad.
didn't-
It was
I didn't
quite
see
sad
that.
because they ended up
That's
having
more.
their first trial ended up becoming a mistrial.
No, I haven't.
And it was at such a crucial time. It's so worth the watch. It was at a crucial time because, during that time in the kind of late 80s, 90s, police in LA or whatever, they were kind of they were drawn up as quite a bad picture. So it ended up being a mistrial because all the women in the jury favoured could understand about the sexual abuse. Could understand about the sexual abuse that was happening, but all the men in the jury didn't, because they were back in that time. They were thinking, how could men get sexually abused? And I know nowadays with the Me Too movement, I think had that trial happened now, it'd be a very different story.
What's the Me Too movement? Sorry.
So Me Too movement is more like everyone's more. I feel like everyone's more empathic about those things now than they would have done back then, because it was still very misogynistic. I kind of feel back in the late 80s and 90s, where it was now like there's things more about mental health and all the rest of it.
Yeah, if you were getting maybe sexually harassed, people would be more like, just fuck it.
But what had happened is
whereas now it's like,
after the first trial was a mistrial, they ended up having a second trial, and it was just after the O.J. Simpson case, which is a huge trial that happened, and all the evidence kind of showed that it would have pointed like he was guilty, but because it was almost it became such a race thing at that time, where because of the Rodney King's, don't quote me if I'm wrong on that, there was just the police brutality on racism back in LA was huge. So when the OJ thing happened and he ended up becoming not guilty in his case, it was almost like the kind of the LAPD was just like they were out for blood. So when it came to the second half of the brothers' trial, they just got absolutely nailed, and they ended up going to a life sentence. They weren't put on death row. They were given a life sentence. And what was quite sad at the end of it is that they ended up going to two separate jails. They weren't actually allowed to see each other because they were afraid of the conspiracy to commit murder again. So it's a sad story, and there's a lot of conflictings whether they deserve to go on death row or they were always lying about the abuse they were given to get off and all the rest of it. But everyone's views are opposed to it, and it's a really interesting. The actors in the docu series were phenomenal, and then the actual documentary that was released afterwards gives you more insight. And actually, towards the end, because it blew up on TikTok about their case and the Me Too movement, the brothers were managed to reunite.
Are they still serving?
They're still serving, and people are like they're now kind of saying like they want to reopen the case and try and get them out. There's a lot of crazy people out there.
And this happened in the 80s?
Well, this happened late 80s, 90s, yeah.
This is crazy, man.
Yeah,
30 years.
It's a crazy story, and it was because they were such a rich family and in Beverly Hills, and they used shotguns to murder their parents and blamed it on the mafia, and it was a horrendous way to kill your parents.
So they said they were not guilty?
At the beginning, they said
they tried to cover it up.
They tried to cover it up, and then they started spending all this money because they came in all this inheritance, and everything led to it looking so bad on their part, and it was horrendous,
And they killed the mum as well?
Yeah, they did, yeah, because they believed that she was already miserable and on loads of pills, and she was very unhappy and knew about the abuse that the boys were being given and didn't say anything. So the whole case was about their lawyers were saying the parents were deserving of it, and they didn't, and the boys were doing them a favour and killing them, and it's.
I think that's the most heinous crime. Anything to do with kids, child molesting, anything.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
That sort of stuff. Yeah, I mean, really.
Like if anything, like if all that is true, then yeah, you'd think that was why
justifiable.
When they had them on the stand and in the first trial, they were like, God, if they did do that to their kids, then fuck yeah, they fucking deserve it.
What else would they be capable of to other people's kids?
Yeah,
that's it. So yeah, it's really worth a watch. And I know obviously when this episode comes out, it'll be a few months down the line when that had all been a hot topic, but yeah, get comfy over the winter and give it a watch because it is good. And then also America versus OJ, a really good docu series like reenactment of the OJ Simpson case, which we were like me and my girlfriend were like hooked onto, which was just brilliant. Goes into just all the media attention of blowing this thing up, and the prosecutors that were trying to submit the evidence of, what had happened. But the other team of lawyers that OJ had hired were just making it into this big race thing, and it ended up being such a worldly, huge thing. It's just because I grew up obviously hearing about it, but I never actually did the research or watched the series or watched things about it. When I understood it, I was like, yeah, fuck, that would have been a crazy time to have been in LA or, the States back then, where, I'll never understand what it's like to be, to be of colour and how it feels to be surrounded by police and how that must feel. And yeah, during that time, it was so tense. It must have been awful, and probably still is now. I don't know. I can't speak for that, but yeah, it was just it's very eye opening. I think you should watch it. Yeah.
Talking about serious, have you seen Ancient Apocalypse?
I actually have.
That's actually.
Have you seen the second one?
I've not seen the second series. I've been too engrossed in watching all the other stuff, but yeah, I do need to watch it.
It's insane.
Have you seen the second one?
Yeah, I've still got a couple more episodes to finish, but yeah, it's
I pretty much binged it.
really.
Yeah, I love Graham Hancock, man.
What was your favorite part?
To be honest, I liked the first one more than the second one. I feel
I
like
agree.
the second one was a bit more
I think he wants to.
stretched out, and some of the cases like I don't see why is it so like why is it so strange that this building is here, like compared to the first one. Like there was like Göbekli Tepe, let's just for example, where they dated back to like was a how would you call that, the last ice age. So that's quite fascinating, and how they like managed to see the like the levels of astronomy, mathematics, and all of that. So
Yeah, have you guys seen it?
I've seen the first series. I haven't seen
The second one's really fucking interesting. Like,
does he go back to his original?
no,
ones that he did in
it's
the
about
past?
him in the Americas, and I think he said he wants to do a third one where it's just Egypt as well. But he does come across some anomalies where he, in the Americas, I can't remember exactly where this particular site was. I think it's where Machu Picchu was, where the stonework that you see, the blocks are completely like interlinked.
oh yeah, I've seen it.
And there's also this part where there's like almost like a doorway,
That's fascinating.
and the stone that it's made out of is like smoothed over.
Wow.
And they would have said that they would have had to have got that stonework like up to an extreme amount of heat in order to create that sort of like curvature on the stone.
Oh, interesting.
And this all dates back to like the Younger Dryas, sort of before
Like
the last ice age,
12,000
years ago.
What I really loved in his first series is when he went to Serpent Mound, that snake in the ground, and how it lines up with the sun or True North or whatever.
Yeah.
And how he's not even allowed to go there.
Yeah,
To excavate.
they banned him from many places like Egypt. He's not allowed to go to Egypt
Yeah.
anymore.
I mean,
Like
what's-
there are certain censored objects.
What's also really fascinating is the the LiDAR stuff that they're doing.
Yeah,
So
in
they're,
Amazon.
they're covering a lot more of the Amazon now.
Interesting.
And they say because they're using or harvesting a lot of the Amazon because they're using it for palm oil, basically. They're just decimating the rainforest, but they're also, as they're chopping into it, uncovering more of these huge like excavations of like where they've seen like
what human civilization?
yeah because they were saying that sort of in the rainforest alone could have inhabited like millions of people. There's also that story about the sailor, the Spanish guy that went there and wrote a journal on his discovery in the Amazon.
So that's the movie
talk
called the City of Zet.
Yeah, the Lost City of Zet.
The Lost City of Zet. Yeah.
Talks about that about him, and like, but also with that, they also brought like diseases and white.
Yeah. So that's why there's nobody there now. So initially he went there. They apparently, based on his diary, they found these huge civilizations in Amazon, and then after 100 years they went again, and nobody was there, because like the hypothesis is that they just brought like diseases to Amazon. Nobody had an immune system for it, so everyone just got wiped out.
And also with that, I think, which is the really fascinating part, is within those tribes or within those cultures, especially within the Amazon, they're so susceptible to the amount of medicinal purposes that they have for all the plants there, and a lot of that is the connection with entities through the ayahuasca brew or other sort of psychedelics. And I think that part's in particularly interesting because there's so much to discover on that side of the realm of the brain where they would have had access to. I mean, I've not personally done it, but I would like to.
Have you done it, Jay?
Ayahuasca?
Yeah.
No, but I was
Would
listening.
you do it?
I was talking to my mum about this.
Yeah.
recently,
To your mum?
actually. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Well,
And-
she's helping to accommodate the retreats or something.
No. We're only talking about it 2 weeks ago, but saying about so ayahuasca is a feminine drug, isn't it?
So
It's
what
a
it is,
combination,
it's the ayahuasca vine, which
Bark,
has,
isn't it?
what's that?
And the bark.
So the ayahuasca vine is basically what stops, which is what allows the DMT from the other plant pass through the blood-brain barrier. So what it does is, if you were just to ingest either one of the two ingredients, your stomach would just digest it. But with them both brewed together, that vine allows the DMT to go straight into your sort of central nervous system and give the effects that it gives you. And they call it mother ayahuasca on the basis that you come across one particular entity that tends to be either a serpent or a female entity that you experience, which is called mother ayahuasca, and she somewhat shows you questions that, or for some people that you might not have an experience at all, from what I've heard. Some people just purge, so that's either like vomiting or whatever else it might be. But then walk away and go, I didn't actually experience anything, but might find later down the line that they did. And then other people have like serious psychedelic experiences where you're sort of in another realm.
Mm.
And they talk about those realms being an actual place or a plane in which you can communicate. And I think what's really interesting about this particular docuseries, or what Graham Hancock says in particular, is the interlink between cultures across the world that wouldn't have had access to each other on the basis that we weren't connecting as a civilization, like even when we were seafarers. You know, there's links of cultures that in terms of statues and pyramids that are building the same sort of structures on completely opposite sides of the world, and maybe there was a link there through, potentially, in my sort of understanding of it, maybe through ritualistic telepathic ways. I think there's nothing that's not or should not be disclosed with that.
Have you seen that they currently found a way how to communicate in dreams? So
We have the same fucking dreams at times.
Can you Google that? So recently they managed to have a conversation in a dream between the two people. And it's just like somehow through AI and shit.
Yeah, I saw you sent me that video.
Yeah. Is it? I'm pretty sure it's legit because I've seen it in a few articles saying that as well. So just have a Google.
Can you? Yeah, this is a dream. Can you talk to?
Joe Rogan posted that as well. Well, that's not the best source, I guess, but
Two-way communication is possible with people who are asleep or dreaming, specifically with people who are lucid dreaming. That is dreaming while being aware that you're dreaming. So the really fucking interesting thing, and not just, I mean, obviously that's just on like Google, but there was also this really fucking interesting, and this is a bit like woo-woo, but it was a conversation between the shaman and Aubrey Marcus, and this shaman is this white American
White
guy.
Dragon? Is
The
that?
white dragon guy, yeah.
Yeah.
You've seen it?
I know him. I know
Okay,
him.
cool.
I haven't seen the interview probably. Have you boys seen them smelling salts?
Oh yeah, yeah.
The
I've
Rogan
seen-
podcast.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, it looks horrendous.
Yeah, I've done it. Have you?
You've done it?
Yeah, because my sister's ex-boyfriend was this like army police guy,
Oh, is it?
and Heath, if you remember,
Right.
and he used to have this bottle of smelling salts, and he also did jiu-jitsu, right?
Is it like a drug or not? Like what is it?
No, so it's basically these salts that are in a container, and when you fucking sniff it, I'll get some. When you sniff it, it's literally like someone jabbing you in the fucking face.
Would you do it?
Yeah,
You
I've
did
done
it.
yeah,
Would
yeah,
you boys do
it's
it?
horrible.
Would I do it? Yeah, I'd give it a go. I mean, it looks.
Let's do it. Fuck it.
Have you actually?
Oh fuck you!
What the fuck fuck is this?
Smelling salts.
Jesus.
You know Eddie Hall?
Yeah,
the
yeah.
powerlifter. So it's his brand.
Where's the bench press then?
Well, you can live the
I
world,
really
man.
regret saying I'd try it.
So what's supposed to be the benefit of this?
So it's supposed to get you
Why is it?
charged up.
Oh shit! It's like
Wait.
pre-workout.
Oh, it is. Okay. So it's not pre-workout. It's apparently gets. Not sure how accurate is that, but it gets straight to your nervous system, like and
What's it called? Alpha Design. Jesus.
yeah,
Beast.
and beast, strongest smelling salts,
Have
and
you
then
tried it?
I will, and then it goes straight to your nervous system, and then apparently like you get like adrenaline rush, and then you can lift more.
Use my code Conrad10 for 10% off at checkout.
Jesus.
All right, go on then.
No, you fucking.
I'll do it if you man do it.
Ooh,
Go on, I'll do it.
mate, I feel it.
Give it to me. Want to eat it?
Yeah.
Fuck, no, but I feel it here.
What, you just have to...
Yeah, go for it.
Oh man.
Have a
I
good
can
one.
get a whiff of it right now.
That's disgusting.
Is it mad?
Fuck me. Oh. Jesus. That is actually,
Merry Christmas.
that went straight to the back of my fucking head.
Fuck me, man.
Head.
Oh,
Just based on all your actions,
Just
I'm
go
not
for
doing
it.
it.
Bro, you said you would do it. So.
oh, that's horrible.
You have to...
Will, do you want to try?
Come on, bro.
Oh, my actual face.
Go on, one more.
I'm done.
I'll do one more. Fuck it.
What the fuck's wrong with you, dog?
I like punctures your skull, man. It's like getting shot in the face.
Shit.
I know what that feels like.
I could crack it.
I'm fucking crying.
I bet Eddie Hall's gonna watch this and be like, fucking pussies.
Bro, I can't breathe.
That's actually really disturbing.
No, lift.
Yeah, that went straight down the back of my head.
It went like here.
I feel like I can fucking lift the universe, man.
That's what Theo once said.
Fuck it now, man.
Oh, mate, that was sharp.
They look weird,
This
quite
nose
weird
was
in there.
blocked. It went up this nose.
Yeah.
And
Did you feel it in your eye?
Yeah.
It went all the way down the back of my head and then in the back of my eye.
I felt it like vibrate my skull. I don't want to do that ever again.
That was.
Well, Merry Christmas. I thought it'll be a nice addition to the podcast.
You're a psycho.
Ain't doing this again.
Give it to Rafael.
Yeah. Have a sniff.
I'll stop crying.
Jesus. Well, thank you for that.
Cheers, man.
Bro, I didn't expect it to be that bad.
You could smell it from over there. When
Literally, as
you
soon as I
opened
opened, I was like, "Fuck!" That like the environment changed. I was like, "Something is off."
it, everyone started to get really amped up. So, anything called alpha,
Who's
just
gonna
stay
start me?
away from it.
Who's gonna stop me?
Can I have some, please?
Oh man. Take my fucking hat off.
Wow.
Right.
Let me fit that. Please.
I know you have it's a bit random, but I know you have a word for every year. What was your word this year, and what is going to be next year?
Great question. I had a conversation with a client a few weeks ago about this. Can't concentrate, honestly.
Get fired up.
So this year, it was...
Give me a little bit more.
Jesus Christ, this guy.
Good at it.
Go on.
This year was courage, and I feel I don't specifically select it. It kind of builds up in the year, and you start to lean into elements of the year and what happens. So that's been my word for this year. Next year,
Sorry. So what was the word? I didn't.
courage,
Courage.
courageous.
I thought you were going to say, what was the question?
Oh, I asked. Yeah, courage. And next year,
I haven't got a word for next year yet. It will come to me. I'll feel it next year.
January.
you boys have something like this.
I have words that I more like virtues I live by every year. One of them being courage, but so empathy, love,
Smelling salts.
Smelling salts. Empathy, love, honesty, courage, discipline, family, and wisdom. So those are all my virtues and truths that I try and live by every day. Yeah.
Did your therapist help you get to those words, or did you have that before?
We uncovered a few of them, and then I just listed off things that I really believe in and that I really feel strong. Yeah, actually, do you mind? That I feel strongly about.
I was actually asking about that. What made you want to do 100k? Is it an ultra marathon?
Yeah.
It's intense.
I always wanted to do it, so I did loads of not loads, but like 4 to 6 marathons. I did like 3 ultras, which ranges between 50, 60 to 80 kilometers or something. But that was purely for my own entertainment. I just went for a run. I really used to enjoy run, and I always wanted to do that 100k. And I never really did it. I tried to do once. I just went for a run. I had like a peanut butter sandwich, a banana, and a bottle of water. I was like, I'll see how much I can run. So I did 50k, then I ate that, and then I continued on running. And then I ran 84 kilometers or something, and then I just stopped because I just couldn't complete it.
You did that in one day. Thanks, brother.
Yeah. And I always wanted to do 100k, but I never did it. And now, since I moved to Manchester, I was like, I just feel I'm getting comfortable.
Don't.
No, I'm getting comfortable, and I was like, I want to do something that really excites me. So before that, it used to be like obviously Muay Thai fights and Jiu-Jitsu comps. That really excited me, but now that I'm not really competing that much, more so just training for running will be that one. So signed up, and I'll do that on the 25th of May.
Question for you: how much of doing these activities and events such as Jiu-Jitsu comps, Muay Thai fights, and 100k runs, how much of it do you think comes from fueling your ego, so to speak?
Big part of it, absolutely, big part of it. And it took me a while to kind of realize that, because you don't want to tell that to yourself, that like I'm doing it for... There are elements of self-development, obviously, like going against the grain and going against the fear and trying to push yourself, because preparing for a fight is a really hard process, and getting yourself in the ring is a really hard process for me, from a personal perspective. But then at the same time, you want to kind of show off a bit. So part of it is, it's just like ego fuel, you could call it.
Well, you need ego to...
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not a bad thing. Like going into these fights in Thailand, like it massively helped me to understand that I am the person that I say I am. So I used to say like, I'm a courageous person, but I didn't really have that stack of...
There's no proof, yeah.
There's no proof, yeah. And when I got into these fights, I was like, well, you see, like I did that. So I have a stack of proof now.
Yeah, that fight in King Kong was huge.
I'm glad I didn't fight then. I would have got my ass whooped there.
And for you boys, would you say, because I think there's different ways in how you do it. I think Conrad does a lot of physical challenges. Podcast as well is proof of putting yourself out there. How much of DOSMAS do you think for you boys is fueling that ego?
I mean, there's parts of it where it's sometimes ego driven, because you want it to be the best you can get it to. But then like you have to, I suppose with your job and with business it's different, because you can't, I think ego with that would get you further in trouble. So you have to, for me, I try and think as rationally as I can with my ego away from it. Whether it's like a challenge like 100k or doing something that's like proven to myself, then yeah, I think there's more drive of ego in those
work
challenges.
Feels less emotional
than it used to,
than it did at the beginning.
Yeah, I think that's come from maturity a bit with it.
How do you mean?
well, in mine and Rupert's relationship, it's definitely a lot less emotional being brothers. And work now just feels like we're working to build something rather than it feels like an emotional.
Rather than it feels like doing something to prove it to yourself or to someone else. It doesn't feel like I need to prove anything anymore. I've already proved it.
When do you think that transition happened?
Probably this year for me.
Why?
Yeah.
That's probably one of my biggest
Triumphs.
I'd say.
Yeah, because it changed. It's maybe the beginning of this. Yeah, probably the beginning of this year, or sort of during this year, there was this transition of I've already proved it to myself and to other people that I can actually do it. Now it's not. It doesn't. It's not fueling that now.
I feel if we lost it or dropped it all tomorrow, I'd feel totally fine. And that's not because I don't love what I do. It just feels like I've gone past the point where I don't feel like I'm proving it anymore. My ego's away from it. I just turn up to work and I just do it because I love building something. And yeah, I don't feel like ego. Obviously, you need your ego on a daily basis as a positive tool, but I don't feel the need to. I don't do it because I need to be validated.
Even for the people that probably don't want to see it work.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't feel like, because I think about that at times. You kind of care. There's moments where you care about what people think, but you know enough within yourself that you've got yourself to a point of where you're like, I'm really happy and proud of where I got it. And no one can ever take that away from me. And I'm not even going to let my own self-doubt and self-judgment of things of myself tear away what is really meaningful. Like, for the example, the other day, me and Charlie did this job or event, and it was a well-paid event, and we didn't receive the money for the event. It's still ongoing.
Well, is that on the 27th?
Yeah, and it wasn't. So normally, how like an event would work is like it's paid up front or there's a deposit. In this case, it was a minimum spend. So it was like whether we sell one portion or 100 portions or 1,000 portions, it doesn't matter. Like, we're always going to walk away with that minimum spend, and we're protected. And the event was an event where everyone was drinking, everyone was on cocaine, and no one ate, basically, which was actually like when me and Charlie packed up and left at 2 a.m. that night, having not sold the amount of food. It was like, oh, we still get to use the food for the shop and we still have the minimum spend, so we're fine. And we both looked at each other and we were like, nah, I just wanted to see people eat. I just wanted to do what hurt. It was that's like, what hurt was like.
And it's not about the fucking money. Like, yeah. I do it, and it's like you put all that love, effort, and work into making food taste the best it can possibly be.
For people to walk away from that experience and go, fuck yeah,
that was fucking good. And to not have that at the end, it's like, yeah, it's like having any chef cook a really delicious meal, and to have no feedback on what you've done, or it's not like you're seeking for that particularly, but to not even go and sell what we originally wanted was a massive kick, because it's like, you want to see people happy. It's part of your job. Like, I don't do it for the money, and if I did, I wouldn't be busting my ass the way I am. And to fire the same question at you, Joe, how does it, like, in terms of where you feel now in your business, like with your ego?
I would say a lot of it. So I remember when I first started the business. I think we all started the business the same year, 2017. 2017, 18. I like an absolute twat. Got these business cards done on Vistaprint, double-sided. The first side was shiny. I love these business cards. I thought they looked so cool. Like a knob, I put my name as Joseph Testori, CEO. It's like, you're such a twat. But I guess that's learning and growth.
I did that. I put myself as CEO on my business plan, and I remember I gave it to my stepdad. He was like, "You're not a CEO."
what was Charlie? What were you?
Well, me, I was like co-founder or some shit. Like, the thing is, you have this idea of you build up. It's like, let's say we'll climb Mount Everest, and you only visualize what it's like being at the top. You don't actually visualize what it's like going through the journey of it. And actually that's what it's all about, isn't it? Is the climbing, or the climbing of the mountain, but we only visualize the putting the flag down and being like, fuck yeah.
And you spend such short time at the top as well.
Yeah,
That's
sorry,
it.
going back to your thing, I interrupted you there.
So these business cards, and I remember I was handing them out to people at university, like, ooh, look at you, because I was doing my master's while I started the business, and I thought I was so cool going by. I remember a friend of mine, he came up to me and said, oh yeah, I'll invest in your company. Like, how much equity would 10k get me? And I was like, nah, man. And to that, I think there was so much of it was, I liked posting on LinkedIn or other platforms to show, oh, look at me, I'm cool. When in reality, I was skin. I was making everything up on the fly and as it went along. And I think you remember periods whereby and I think this is kind of the morph, and I believe that a man isn't truly a man until he goes through experiences. And for people, it might happen at 19, it might happen at 29, it might happen at 39. I feel there was a period for me where I really started transition. I wasn't scared about spending money, investing, equally losing money. I remember when there'd be times I wouldn't get an invoice paid and I would freak out. And there was this guy who owed me £500 for months, and it was the end of 2019. I said to myself, come January 1st, I'm just going to cut that. That's it. Forget about that in the past, because that's taking too much of my energy up. But I would say, to answer your question directly, it was probably, I got scammed for just under 53 grand in May 2022. Ended up getting all the money back.
I remember that.
Exactly after a month. And that experience, I remember 2 days after that, I started to feel so unwell. But I think it was just such a test of stress tolerance. And you realise, and I did say to myself, I was so gung-ho on, I'm getting this fucking money back. Because, yeah, I take blame for pressing buttons, but the bank should have had more fail-safes in place, and they didn't react responsively, hence why I got my money back. But I kind of turned that into a dogfight, and I got really nasty with my bank to get that money back. And I think 95% of people wouldn't have done so. And you sent me a link to a guy who was asking for help on LinkedIn last week. And I commented on this guy's post. I said, hey, I've gone for a similar experience for a lot more money than you. Drop me a message and I'll help you where I can. Didn't hear from him, so that's it. But that experience for me, I think I realised, and this is one of my favourite quotes, is failure isn't fatal. And these instances happen. You can always rebuild yourself. And I remember having a conversation with my mum just after it happened. And she said, look, Joe, you've got a team now. That's all well and good. But it's not the end of the world if you have to go back to level 1 and rebuild. And I think it's just having the confidence in yourself. You're like,
What was the scam?
Kind of like a TLDR of it was, it was actually after jiu-jitsu. Got a call from a guy who was making out he was working for the bank. So he called me and said, hey, is this Joe, blah, blah, blah. Someone's tried to push payment through for £500 in Manchester, and they've tried to do another one for here. You're laughing at you.
That was me.
Jesus.
Go for it.
So, yeah, the guy had me on the phone for about 3 hours going through. He's like, okay, I've called the police, as in, we put a crime reference case for this. Can you put a number down? He knew so much information about me. So he called me from the bank's phone number. So essentially cloned the number. And the thing that got me, because I was walking home from jiu-jitsu, walked really slowly, and I was about 5 minutes away from my house. And I was like, sorry to be cynical, but what if this is the scam? He's like, and he was just so calm. He had a northern accent. He said, you're completely within your rights to ask that question. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send you a one-time 6-digit code. And that came from within all of the texts I've had within the bank. So I got sent this code, and I was like, you know what? He's got all this info on me. And there were a few gaps, obviously, upon reflection, but the fatigue, and no joke, this was a Saturday, so I did jiu-jitsu, left, and I was so tired. I was like, I'm going to go for a nap now, wake up in half an hour once the money's like, but he was saying we're going to move it from one account to another. So what essentially, how it's so sophisticated is, for the scam to work, is he needed an account within the same bank. So essentially set up a Ponzi business, money got sent there, and it was distributed to dozens of accounts very, very quickly. And when I was like, nah, this doesn't feel right. And then I called up the bank. I was like, hey, I need someone to look at this right now. And they had a third-party fulfillment center, and I can't even remember where it was. And the guy was like, sorry, we're not actually part of the bank. We're just like an extra support helpline. Saturday, weekends, we don't work weekends. I was like, mate, I'm not talking about fucking £500. I'm talking about 53 grand. I need someone on this now. Well, sorry, I can't help you. He was like, no, didn't do nothing. So I went through all of the chats within the bank, had a guy the next day reach out to me from India who was in the bank. I was like, by this point, I researched how quickly you need to react on these things, because if it goes past the second bank, so what they do is they get the money into that holding account, and then he distributed it out to Santander's, HSBC accounts, and then they would move it on. Once it goes to the third layer, more or less impossible to get the money back. Second layer, the banks can recall it.
Oh God.
And then so I was like, look, he's like, don't worry, we're getting on this today. We'll see if we can get it back. And he's like, you'll hear from me within the next 3 hours. Obviously, I'm just like on my phone all the time, just anxious. Didn't hear from him. Monday comes. I'm like banging down the phone, like, where is this? Sorry, there's nothing we can do about it. Sorry's not good enough. I need something to be done about it. And I was just harassing their line. They're like, well, yeah, it's too late. In the end, Errol, who I started the Grappling Growth podcast with, fantastic guy, he's got amazing connections. He put me in contact with someone he knew who, I don't know the tabloid or the newspaper, but it was, I'm guessing it's either the Guardian or the Times.
Sure.
And we essentially said, and I threatened the bank, so I said, look, if I'm not hearing from the CEO within this time period, I'm going to take this to a very big press, because you've got a lot of fail-safes in place that have been recorded that you haven't organised. And in the end, gave them their deadline, didn't hear back from them. And then he passed it on within a day. And I remember it was the Queen's Jubilee, so it was at the start of June. I got an email from the COO who used to work for essentially the financial ombudsman, who they're the guys who they'll slam you if there's a lot of breaches and stuff. Got back to me, he's like, I'm away on holiday right now, it's bank holiday, but I will get back to you on Tuesday. First thing, spoke to him. And I literally threatened him. I was like, look, mate, I've got nothing to lose. You're a big bank. I'm going to do whatever I can do to get this money back. And I'm not threatening you, but it's my livelihood and my business. And I need a response. About a week and a half later, got all of the money back. And they basically just, they were like, you know what? Obviously, you pressed the buttons, but there was a lot of negligence on our part. And I could see a lot of transitions in that bank afterwards where they send out emails very frequently to people to tell them about scams. I remember the day after like this, everything was finalised with me, they put out this first email to everyone as a communication and within the app. And and I think that whole experience, and kind of like what Jocko Willink says, and you and I, we go back with this a lot of the time, he says good. And I kept on saying to myself, so what good can I find out of this? And then the whole experience. And I just remember when I got that money back, I was just like, fuck, I just need a day just to decompress.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And
So
Also to be sitting on that for a week and a half, because
no, it was 4 weeks.
4 weeks, yeah, that's insane.
It happened on the 14th of May, and then I got the money back on the 14th
It's horrible,
of June.
because I think with scammers and stuff like that, because some responsibility is like on you as well, you know, and like not being, but
And you feel
I
like
can
an absolute idiot.
I can imagine. Yeah, that's really tough.
Drastic situations take drastic measures. And
I almost got scammed once as well. I remember this guy, it was during COVID as well, this guy called me, and it was super professional as well. Like the guy knew what he's doing. It's like, hey, is that Conrad? We're calling you from police. This and that happened. You have to transfer your money to this bank account. I was like, something is up. Like, 'cause I had scam calls prior to that, and I was like, I just hang up. But this time it was something about that guy that just sounded different. It's like, this and that happened. I'm calling from police. when he said police, I was like, yeah, it's fine. I was like, can I come tomorrow to police station and we'll look into that. And I feel like he didn't expect that question from me. It's like, because I can feel like he paused for a second. It's like, well, it's COVID right now, so because we follow the strict procedures, you can't come to police, but he started to get into that. So he's like, how much money you got there? And at that time I was investing in crypto, so I was like, I got money in there, in there, and there. I just told him everything. I didn't tell any codes, but I just started to talk about the money that I have. And he said, all right, so now you just need to transfer it to that account, and your money will be safe. So I started to add like the numbers, and I was like, I just don't feel right about it. It's like something is off. I was like, hold on a second. I put him on mute, and I put his phone number into Google, and straight away just like scammers, red flags all the time. It was like, Iron Mike was like, see you later, mate, and just hang up. And he tried to call me again, and just like didn't answer. And it's funny that you mentioned this, because I'm getting a call from this woman right now. It's been like 3 days in a row. She's been calling me. She's like, hi, it's Samantha Bell from Coin Tracker. So apparently I used to have an account there, and she's like, we send you an email to your email, which is econrad@protonmail.com. And that email I use only for crypto. Like, I don't use for anything else. It was just for crypto. And I was like, how the hell she knows my email? So she sent me an email, apparently for some reimbursements. They owe me 19 grand. I was like, that can't be true.
It's too good to be true.
I was like, this could be true. So I sent an email to Proton, still waiting for them to reply. But she like keeps on calling me, knows my name, knows my emails. She's calling me from OT number as well, which is obviously it's easy to get, but it sounds professional, but at the same time it's not. She's got an accent, and her name is Samantha Bell, so she's like an English name.
Can you not turn around and, because within these accounts normally you have security questions,
just
and get her to prove certain.
Well, the thing is that I don't remember
information.
any of these passwords, because I used to use crypto, what was like 2-3 years ago, so I haven't touched it in a while now, so I don't even know my passwords on CoinTracker or anything. So I'm trying to get access to CoinTracker.
Right.
So once that is done, I can get into that. But the thing is, like, she's calling me like every single day. So
Nah, that's a
No,
scam.
yeah. It's awful. I mean, people going out and scamming and, not paying invoices to small businesses, it's livelihoods. And I think it's just, it's hard to watch, hard to hear. And there's so many stories, so many cases of it happening all the time.
Do you remember that piece of shit that scammed me for 100 quid at Modern Market?
Yeah, of
What
course.
Mate, this guy came up to me and he knew, he knew stuff about DOSMAS. He was going on about this like rugby event.
No, I've already ditched it.
He was going on about this rugby event and how I needed to pay a deposit to do this rugby event. He knew like all the other names of the traders and because I was, Mum and Steve were coming at that evening and all this sort of stuff.
A lot going on. And
I gave him like £100 in cash to like finalise this deposit for the event that we were doing. And then I remember as soon as I walked off, you were like, what did you just do? And I went, fuck. And I tried to run after him and he'd already gone at that point. But he was so charismatic. He was so well researched. He came across immediately as if
it's taking advantage of someone who's vulnerable at that point.
Yeah.
And who
pressing
needs
all the buttons.
reassurance.
But
And that's how they work.
Yeah.
It's awful.
But like he was pressing on things that he knew that I'd wanted or would want to hear. Like it was weird. It was a really...
It's quite
It's
an
a
art
real
form.
experience. Yeah,
Scammers
it is an art
and con
form.
artists come in various shapes, sizes, and they come prepared, not prepared. And yeah, it's just really sad to see. And the majority is the small businesses, the elderly or young influential, young kids and all the rest of it. They're the ones that get really targeted about it. And it's it's really sad to watch. And I think more and more now we live online. It's
easier to do.
Yeah, it became a thing.
Especially
AI is just creepy now, and it's you know, what happens when they really can, if they can have all that homework on just your situation, Joe. Like, it's terrifying to think, like, the more you put yourself out there as a small business online, like, they'll just do so much research that you just, you know, if you're in one moment of weakness, that you're just you trust them.
Just to ask a question on your case, Joe, when he said that there was people spending money on your account, did you see on your bank statements people were taking money out of your account?
No, so what he said is that they tried to do it, but the bank blocked it.
I see.
And he said they have access to your account, and we froze it. It was just, again, it's one of those things that...
That's so mad.
I'm such a fucking idiot. How? But then when it's easy to just...
when you're there live, yeah.
When
you're
there,
inexperienced,
you feel how fatigued you are. And
yeah.
like, okay, but he's doing this. And then you'd say to me, you'd say stuff like, okay, what I need you to do now is exactly what I said to you. And then went back.
It's getting you to mirror him.
And I was like, no. He's like, no, you missed out this. And then you go into this point, and just... You just knew so much.
He was completely professional.
Idiosyncrasies.
Yeah.
You're not an idiot. What it is like, let's say, like, we were having this conversation yesterday about not getting paid this invoice, and we're like, wow, such idiots for not getting a deposit. You're not an idiot. What it is, let's say you're a champion fighter in the UFC, you can still get knocked out.
Yeah, it's true.
That's it.
And you'll look back at the footage and be like, God, I slip that all the time. Or if you're doing jiu-jitsu, fuck, I know how to defend that leg lock. But you still get it. You still get hit by it, and it's not being an idiot. It's not, you know,
it's there when you're in the moment.
It's there in the moment, and we can't change those things that have happened, but we can again learn from the experience. And it might happen again a few times. But like that conversation you had with your mum, it's like if you go back to square one, so be it. But you're resilient and strong enough to keep getting after it, and you know those experiences you learn from it, and then when you look back on it, it's like you'll understand the patterns of how those people work. Mm-hmm. To always take a deposit when you take an event, or to always double check your bank statements or go through another higher clearance before handing over your security information. It's, you know, we get burned a lot to understand eventually we shouldn't touch fire.
I also think on that point, there's I think being young businessmen at times, we're probably too trusting, thinking, you know what?
So true.
I want people to give to me what I would give to people. Like I never try. Conrad knows this. Even like when I got scammed, I loved him for this, but he said, "Oh, if you can't pay me the next month, it's cool." But I said to myself, I'm the last one who gets fed. I'm gonna try my best to make sure I can make enough money to pay everyone in the team. And if I go hungry, then that's it. At the end of the day, if I take all the upside as the business owner, then I should be willing to accept the risk. And I think at times I had a lady who started working with me recently said, "Oh, we won't be working with a contract, will we?" And I was like, "Yes, we will." And even if she bit back, I would say, "Look, it's not about a case of I don't trust you, but again, you touch the stove enough. It's like it's not a case of I don't trust you. However, this is business. It's not I don't like you or
taking
not.
Precautions.
But I want this in place because I don't want anything to happen that turns around and the I told you so's. And the only way how you get through the I told you so's is lessons, turning around and saying, okay, this has happened. Or you might hear stories from someone else. Unfortunately, I've shared my story with a fair few people, and that's actually saved people from being scammed. So I thought, you know what? I went through the lesson. I'm out on the other side. Feel stronger, better for it. And I've been able to share this with several people who they've been in a position where they could have been scammed. They were there. They're like, oh, actually, this sounds really dodgy. And
if it does happen, like, share it, because you're not an idiot. You know, it happens to the best of people. And the more you shed light and open and own it with your chest, even if they feel embarrassing and you might get judged, and the fear of people rejecting you because you feel that you might be a bit of an idiot or trusting someone, it's not the case, because you eventually become stronger and people respect that more. And I'm sure the more I hear that story of yours and empathize and try and put myself in your shoes to understand, it's like,
I would have done the exact same thing.
And most of the times as well, and this is what I've really tried to work on with myself, people might give you their opinions like, mate, you're so stupid. Most people's opinions you don't really care about. It's just, okay, nice one, yeah, cool. Anything else? Well, that's it.
Has anyone told you that?
like mates been like, oh mate, how could you be so stupid? Or, and I'm like, yeah, fair enough. There's elements you're like, yeah, you see those warning signs, but that's like, you're so, it's easy to be objective about something, but when you look at all of the contextual situations within one thing pushed together, and someone's making you feel scared, you're feeling urgent, you're thinking, fuck. This, and I think this is the biggest thing about scammers is they position themselves as, we're the good guys. Like, come here, buddy. Like, I'm here to help you, and we're trying to save you from someone who's trying to rinse you for money. And you're thinking, fuck. There's someone who. It's like. Have you heard the story of the Inner Citadel?
No.
So the Inner Citadel is sort of along the lines of, you've got the Citadel, and you've got this big fortress, this big castle, and no one can attack it because it's so strong. You've got all your army. So how do you attack the Inner Citadel? Well, you attack it from the inside. So it's someone within the inside who's attacking you, and this could be your wife, this could be your partner. You're like, well, and then you could see these warning signs, and you hear of all of these stoic stories of this guy killed this guy and all of this. And a lot of the time, we're always looking on the outside. And I know you guys mentioned there's a guy who you worked with before who turned into a bit of a, you know what? And again, you're thinking, wow, I'm trying to build the best business possible, and I've got people inside pulling down our business.
100%. There's been a lot of lessons there.
I think it's the growth and the journey, and you'll always like, sometimes you're like, why is it always us? And it's like, well, if you read people's journeys, why isn't it you? You're not special. And actually, when these things happen, it's part of the building of it. It's the journey up the mountain, and
It's what you signed up for.
It's what you signed up for. It's what you put yourself through. It's like treading on the mats.
I think whenever you're trying to be better in life, you've got to try and understand that when you're so willing to open yourself up to the experiences to be better, that you're also opening yourself up to the experiences that are going to fucking pull you back down again. And like when you said, as a business owner, you're so trusting in people. Sorry, I know I cut you off there.
No, not at all.
You're so trusting in people, and you want to build those connections, and you trust. I think you go with that element where you're putting your heart forward because you want to put something out there that's good in the world. You want to help better other people. That's the life of an entrepreneur. A decent one is that you've created something in order to create something better for someone else, and to create an experience or service or product that's going to benefit someone else. So therefore, you are doing something from the goodness within inside you that is going out, and people play on that. And people can play on your niceness.
When some things are if things are better than they are, sometimes it's it's not. If it's too good to be true, it probably isn't good.
Probably is, yeah. And there's been so many times in our journey where that in itself has fucked us in the ass. But like you say, like the Jocko Willink thing, I've always sat down and been like, good, because there will always be something to learn from it. And that is what, whenever I think about, you guys and your journey, or myself and my journey, where I'm going to be at in 10 years, they're going to look back at the situations that I've dealt with, and it won't nearly be as bad as it is as the person that's in it, experiencing it. But that's because you have to have them.
I'd say business and life is quite like snakes and ladders.
Yeah, 100%.
Going along, it's normal, and then maybe you get a ladder that takes you to
it's a great game, that.
door 23, and then you go along to 32, and you're like, oh, well, I hit the snake, and I'm back down to 17, and you're thinking, that's it. And then we might think we've completed it. We've got to 97, and then back down 40 spaces.
Yeah, it is it's a fucking great game. I remember playing that at Granddad's house.
And that checks your ego as well, because how many times where you're playing with your family, and I'm like, my sister would be right at the end, she's like, gonna win, and then she hits a 2, and then she's and you just like going crazy. But that's it. Like sometimes it's like quite often, I think it checks your ego because so that was it. So let's say you go on a hike, you hike a mountain, you get to the top, you're like, all the hard work's done. The amount of injuries that you get hiking down the mountain, it's because you let your guard down. You turn around, like, oh, that's it.
That's a very interesting point, because apparently more people die going down the Everest and up. So apparently
That's
that's
really
a thing.
interesting.
Because apparently it's just even harder to go down than going up.
Well, you
Just
can
let
only
the guard down.
you can only run. So you can only do Everest in a single file fashion. There's one way up, one way down. And Ant Middleton, this is one of the best documentaries I've ever listened to. He turned around and he said he nearly died, but he said he went up to the top of it. He went to the back of the pack because he wanted to be the tallest man in the world at one point. And as he went back down, there was a blizzard that started. So he's going down. He's like, oh my God, there's like 30 people looking at the time. And you can only stay at that height for a certain period of time because it's so cold. And
It's a death zone, isn't it? Yeah.
And there was a guy in front of him. And imagine you walking along a cliff like that. And he's like, mate, you need to move now. The guy was like, I'm done. That's it. And he just died there.
He actually died.
Yeah, and like no body was retrieved from Everest because it's just
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah,
worth the risk.
Like,
Yeah,
you
that's-
walk up past
Past dead
don't you?
bodies, yeah.
But apparently he ended up just being able to circumnavigate and get past, got back down, and then the guy who he did it with, the cameraman, apparently he's a really, really experienced mountaineer. And he said they had a bit of tension before. He's like, there was a bit of ego. He's like, I got back into the tent. There's a video of him there. He's just like, we just both broke down crying. And he's just like, that's the closest I've ever been to death.
That's insane.
That is insane, man.
And that's
So
why
what did he? So he initially broke away from the pack because he was trying to be the tallest man in the world, and that's
So he was the last man
yeah.
at the top. That's the route down. Everyone's there. There's, I don't know, call it 30, 40 people in a line.
Yeah.
That second to last guy's there. So, mate, you need to move. The guy was like, nah, I'm done.
Fuck me. That's intense. I'd love to
Imagine
climb.
die. Like I'm wondering how slow of a death is to get frozen.
altitude sickness, or
Just like
well, I think it's the altitude sickness, and then eventually from the cold you
Yeah,
just be
hypothermia.
frozen. Yeah, because you need oxygen tanks. So when you're at the top level of Everest to summit, you need to have a window with good weather. And but the thing is, where the last summit is what they call the death zone. So you can only spend a amount of time getting up and down there with oxygen before.
But some
before you
people
die.
did it without oxygen as well.
Well, yeah, I mean the
Wim Hof.
Sherpas.
Wim Hof, yeah,
Those are
he
the-
did it in shorts.
But also those that are climatized to so
yeah,
Nepalese.
like
Sherpas, yeah.
how
Sherpas, yeah,
so-
because they can
Sherpas, yeah.
go up and down it all day.
Like horses. donkeys,
Yeah.
then.
There's an
Man,
amazing
disrespect to
documentary on
Sherpas, but-
Sherpas. It's worth a watch about how they live there, and you know the risk they
also-
take for tourists. And
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
amount
they
of
carrying
money.
like 50 kilograms on their back every
I mean, my best
single-
friend he went and did base camp, and that's just an amazing experience to just hike to base camp. And he's got wonderful stories of how he did it. But you know, he was like the Nepalese there were just the most sweetest. Kindest, always smiling. They
Yeah.
take everything. You wouldn't have to lift a finger because when you pay the money to go do it, it's like between 12 and 1500, I think, to do
Yeah,
base camp. Everything's done for you.
No, do you know how much all of it is?
I think it's like 100.
Oh yeah, something
60
like
to 70 grand.
Is it
to hike Everest.
Yeah, I
for
think
sure.
I think
16, 17.
60 to 70.
60? Yeah.
You can't be poorer than that. But yeah, the license to go and do it is about 12 grand.
But they manage it
on
like,
top of the 70.
No, like all in.
Oh, all in. Okay.
it wasn't that expensive back in the day, but because it just brought so many people that wants to try, I think all
Well, there's
these
like a
different
queue to get up,
companies,
isn't there? I
think
all
you
these
get
different
all these
companies just
high
increased it.
achievers and all the rest of
Yeah.
it. Probably like all the climbers.
It's still insane, man. It's still fucking.
Stay humble.
But yeah, no, we used to work. I used to work with the couple of Nepalese guys on the boats we used to work on, and he was saying that one of his friends was a Sherpa. Is it Sherpa or Sherpa?
Sherpa.
Yeah.
And he was like, he was doing Everest like 50 times, like in a year, just fucking no oxygen because they just so he could get his lungs in a position there. He was just absolutely fucking.
Born at high altitude,
Crazy.
it's meant crazy.
And also the Gurkhas, because they're such a big part of their army. A lot of them are
Special forces, bro.
special forces. Yeah.
So
yeah,
that
they're fucking taking big weights and
Nepalese are some of the most nicest people.
also
Come across.
hardest motherfuckers as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so tough.
So these special forces, Gurkhas, you said. There's this guy who did the 14 peaks in
Name is
14
Purja.
months. Yes, that's the one.
Was he a Gurkha?
He was. Yeah,
They're crazy.
there's
fucking
there's documentary about him.
Oh, it's him. Yeah, he released his like a watch or something as well. Was it?
Is it? I'm not
Was it
sure.
something like
You went
that?
on Joe Rogan once.
Yeah,
as well.
I know the one you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, he's insane, man.
Yeah. Like,
And his spirit, his perspective on stuff is just contagious. It's infectious.
I was watching this documentary about Gurkhas and the requirement to get into the Gurkhas, and basically all these Nepalese guys that try out to become, because obviously with being a Gurkha, because it's linked to the British Army, you have the opportunity to go and live in Britain and the payment and all the rest of it. So the test to get in is really difficult, but you get like hundreds of thousands of people that are obviously trying to get in. And Anil, who I worked with on Tatoosh, didn't get in, but he did try it. But he was like, they would put bricks in a rucksack and be like, cool, you have to go scale that mountain. And like, I think people would get injured or like seriously hurt during these tryouts. But what it does is going through that Gurkha training, and then you're then like going into the army. It's like the difference between just an average person and that.
It's like Hell Week as well.
It's
bro.
insane. Yeah, it's like fucking mad.
I always remember him by his forearms because they just looked like they were made out of like actual metal.
He was, yeah,
So
he was.
he had a great.
freakishly
He would have a great fighting. He had a great fighting frame, and he was always like super happy, really nice guy. But like, if getting on the wrong side of him, you'd be absolute toast for sure.
You have to have a dark side to do things like that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
I guess so.
yeah. It's lovely culture.
Cool. Should we wrap it up?
Yeah, guys, thank you so much for joining the
Thank you
Christmas
for having
special.
me.
Yeah, thanks for
Frank
having us on the
Theory.
Christmas special, man. Been sick.
Thought it was awesome. Thank you so much. We'll get a
Bro slaps.
photo at the end
all
of it. But no,
Yeah.
awesome. Like, I think
It's been long overdue. I feel like we should do this more often. Like having a little.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We were meant to do the Halloween one, but it was just.
It is what it is.
We'll plan it next year.
Yeah, I mean, if there's anything that you guys want to say about yourselves, introduce yourself.
Where people can find you.
Well, I'm Rupert's twin brother, so you basically know me anyway. So yeah, I mean, I'm.
You're quite known in the podcast.
Joe, you've got Joe, you've got a podcast. People, I'm sure, like, where can people find you?
Grappling Growth out on all digital platforms.
bruv.
Big man.
Big man.
Subscribe, ain't trying to be the bro.
Yeah, thank you.
No, for everyone that's listened this far, thank you so much for listening. A big Merry Christmas for everyone that's obviously during the holiday festive season.
Thank you for sticking for the whole year. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Sorry, no, you go.
I just want to say well done to you boys for being so consistent with
Thank you.
your podcast and taking it so seriously. As someone who runs a podcast, I know how hard it is, and equally the amount of time and money that you invest into studio. You've got Will to help you, and just everything in general. Massive congrats to you boys.
Yeah.
I'm sure this will be a great reflection point that we'll look back on in years to come, and you'll think, oh,
Yeah,
look where we're at
absolutely.
now.
Me and Charlie are going to do yours next. Thank you. Again,
Thank you,
guys.
and Merry
Thank you,
Christmas. Thank you so
Cheers.
much.
Ooh.